Season 9 is here and the Essence Mastery system is here as well. It is time to talk about the class tier list, as I think the rankings have changed in my own personal opinion. Now, I've been playing the more melee-based, strength-based classes lately in order to swell my knowledge on all the classes, so I am ready to break down and look at what I believe the PvE and PvP rankings are for Diablo Immortal's class list. Now, let's go ahead and bring up this screen and take a look. We're going to be starting with the class I'm currently playing, which is going to be the Crusader. We will do PvE first, and then we're going to be doing PvP as the next bit. So starting with the Crusader, I am going to put them in S tier for PvE. The reason I'm going to put them in S tier for PvE is very simple. They actually do damage in PvE. They have the Flame Circle. You have the Holy Banner. They're really good, in my own personal opinion, in dungeons. Maybe the best class in dungeons because of the way that bursting bosses works with the Holy Banner. They're actually okay in PvP. We'll talk about once we get into PvP here, but I do believe the Crusaders are S tier in PvE strictly because the dungeons are still so important. The Holy Banner is so unreplaceable. It's still the way you're going to get the highest placed in the Warband raids as well, if you are trying to be competitive at all in that. If you're doing things like even the Shadow War, that's like sort of PvE, VP, then even that type of scenario, it's quite good. It's hard to beat Holy Banner. Crusaders are arguably the best PvE class because of Holy Banner, and they just have a great team utility right off the bat. Now, Barbarians in PvE are actually better than I thought they were. They do good damage. They're also arguably the fastest overworld farmer. Some people may balk at that. If you are very strong, meaning you're stronger than the combat rating or you have resonance, you can potentially be the fastest overworld farmer because Barbarian never ever has to stop and attack any minions. You can literally just use the Whirlwind Sprint combination and run in a circle, and they will follow behind you and just straight up die. Also, I was wrong. The Barbarian does do pretty good damage in PvE. I've noticed that recently when I play Barbarian, and there are some builds out there that really slap pretty hard. So the Barbarian, I feel like I've been sleeping on a little bit, and I think it's A tier in PvE. I think it would be hard for me to put it into a B tier at this point. Now, the Wizard, originally I was going to put it in A tier. I'm actually going to drop it to B tier, and here's why. The Wizard, I feel like, is a selfish class. It doesn't really do a whole lot. If we're talking about PvE dungeons, okay, I don't actually want to have a Wizard on my team. I would prefer a Monk or a Barbarian over a Wizard, as both of them can increase my damage with shout abilities or the Blessing Aura. Even the Demon Hunter can weaken and crack the armor of the boss. So I'm not really inclined to want a Wizard on my team. Plus, when you're playing as a Wizard, you very often have to hold still in order to actually use the beam combos. And while that's perfectly fine for things like rifts or more difficult monsters or clearing even some packs in the dungeons, it's not particularly enjoyable for overworld farming, which is a large part of PvE, and we're specifically talking about PvE right now. So for me, Wizard, while you do have that new interesting primary attack build that could potentially bring it up, I would honestly rather play a Barbarian in PvE right now than I would rather play a Wizard, and that's just my honest truth on it. Now, that brings us to the Monk. And the Monk I want to arguably put in B, and here's the reason why, okay? I might put it in A tier because the overworld farming is very quick. As you can run in a circle, and Monk is very busted right now, and someone's probably going to be like, why aren't you putting it in S tier? Yes, Monk has significant burst damage, especially in burst window opportunities, but then there's long cooldowns between, and the deliverable damage drops off significantly. Monk is a class, however, that does have a pretty good team-wide buff, which I don't mind having on my team, as well as some shields, etc. I would rather see a Monk on my team than a Wizard, and so for the utility side of things for PvE, I'm probably going to have to give it to the Monk, and I do believe the Monk is actually a faster overworld farmer. So in both in dungeon, when I'm playing with somebody, I'd rather be a Monk than a Wizard. When I'm playing in the overworld, the Monk is going to farm faster, and I believe the Monk's more enjoyable as well and is more mobile while actually fighting. Whereas the Wizard does have the teleport, the Monk has more options to maneuver quicker, which will help him significantly in overworld farming once again, which is such a big part of the game. So for me, in PvE topic in particular, I think I'm going to edge over the Monk over the Wizard today. Now, moving on here. The Necromancer I normally put in S tier because Necro has the highest single target DPS in the game. I don't think that's fair. I think I'm going to be putting the Necromancer in the A tier, and I'm going to leave Crusader by itself. Spoiler alert, Demon Hunter's not getting in the S tier. The reason why is while the Necromancer is the highest single target damage in the game, and it has some utility with bone armor, etc., I think the Crusader's arm and shoulders above the Necromancer in terms of how much increases the overall team's damage, and the Necromancer is not to the level the Crusader is in things like the dungeons. The Necromancer is a person you want to see on your team because you know they're going to have significant single target damage on things like the boss, but without the Crusader on your team, everyone's damage is half as much, and for that reason, in dungeons, you would rather see a Crusader over a Necromancer, and that's why I'm trying to judge which tiers they're going to go into. Now, overworld farming, the Necromancer is better for a lazy man's farm, meaning if you're in one of the semi-AFK points where you just put a mage up with extended duration, and you just sit there and farm some loot, and then, you go, you click, and then you put another mage up, and you go, use the restroom or whatever. If you're doing the lazy man's farm, then the Necromancer is quite good. But if you're running in a circle and you're actively playing, the Necromancer is very click-intensive, micromanagey, and isn't as efficient as even the Barbarian, for instance, which is much easier to run in a circle in. And even the Monk could be better in a circle sometimes, just because of the fun aspect, whereas the Necromancer is very tedious to run in a circle. So for those reasons, there's some pros and cons to the Necromancer, and even though I have a heavy bias towards the Necromancer, I think it's fair to put it in the A tier today. Now, the Demon Hunter for me, I normally is going to put it in the A tier. I'm kind of split more with this one, where I would kind of like the Monk between these two, because I've, something kind of like that perhaps, and have the Demon Hunter maybe be like a little bit better than the Barbarian, but a little worse than the Necromancer, really draw the list out a little bit more. But for the sake of having just 4 tiers here, I'm going to be putting the Demon Hunter in the A tier. It has high damage. It is very smooth, easy to use, and also has very, very fun, efficient, and lazy farming, but even in the overworld circle where you can just hold the space bar. They also got better with the Essence Mastery system. The uptime got easier to get with the Vengeance, etc. And for that reason, people that have basic attacks and really focus the basic attacks got better too with the Essence Mastery system. I do believe that Demon Hunter is a class that is close to being pretty nuts because they scale so well with attack speed that as we get more and more options for attack speed, maybe we get some super insane attack speed sets or some way to double dip those type of things, the Demon Hunter could become even more of a problem and could arguably be maybe the one that holds the spacebar the most. I mean, you just Vengeance, spacebar, and it's kind of funny if the spacebar ends up doing pretty much everything for the Demon Hunter. But this is somewhat what my PvE tier list looks like. The thing is they're all pretty close together, and realistically, PvE actually doesn't matter that much. Honestly, we're all splitting hairs when it comes to PvE. PvP is the one that's a little bit more important. So let's talk about PvP now. Okay, so we're going to get the elephant out of the room right off the bat. We're going to throw the Monk in S tier. Monk is absolutely S tier. They only got better with the Essence Mastery system. Their burst is uncomparable. Their mobility is uncomparable. They are fairly disgusting in this day and age in terms of damage, utility in shields, and they scale well with resonance. I've played as a Monk. I've never got easier kills than playing as a Monk. They are pretty solidly S tier, no questions to be asked there. Okay, now if you ask me personally, when it comes to the Wizard, I would like to put the Wizard in S tier as well. Yes, they absolutely are not one-shotting you as quickly as the Monk are, and yes, the Monk probably deserves its own tier, but let me tell you one thing, okay? The Wizard still, in this day and age, can hit you from a distance that nobody else can hit you. A Wizard can be farther away than you can even see them, and hit you and kill you before you can even get to them. They literally call a nuclear tactical strike onto you from a distance. For that reason alone, they get the S tier, but they also have Black Hole, which is ridiculous and can block projectiles. Yes, you don't always use that one, but yes, you can block projectiles. For me, Wizard is maybe the most frustrating class to play against. You have ways to do the Ray of Frost and freeze people. You got illusions. You have multiple invisibilities, which will trigger clones, which make it where you basically dump your whole clip into nothing. It's, in my opinion, it is absolutely frustrating to deal with the wizards, okay, as much easily. Then there's going to be the barbarians. I don't mind the barbarians as much as the wizard or the monks, okay? For me, the barbarian's going to go the A tier. The reason being is because, in my own personal opinion, just the fact that the barbarians are alive or massive. What's so difficult is winning on offense. And in order to win on offense, you got to really stay on top of your zealot and push your zealot in PvP. And if you don't do that, then the zealot is going to go backwards, and you have to stand on the zealot almost like a full second before it starts going back the other way, etc. So you really lose a lot of time. You need people standing on the payload and moving the payload just like it's Overwatch. If you don't have that, the game ends. The barbarian is basically the best one to do this, and even if the barbarian wasn't good in other ways, which it is, then this would give it A tier alone. But the barbarian, it also does good damage, has significant CC, and there's some kind of like sleeper CCs with like the Whirlwind Gathering Chest, etc., that are actually kind of nuts. They're a little bit problematic, and I'm surprised more people don't use, but that's a conversation for another day. Now we're going to talk about the Necromancer. I think the Necromancer gets A or B tier. Here's the thing, Necromancer is quite good. Necromancer probably going to go in A tier, has significant CC, but somewhat low damage. You have to supplement having the low damage with having high resonance. So if you have like 7,000 resonance, a Necromancer can arguably be S tier and be really, really, really ridiculous. But if you don't have absolutely insane resonance, then the Necromancer can tend to be feeling a little bit lackluster when you go the CC build, etc. But the CC build is still quite good, which is why you get an A tier out of them, because the summons are completely worthless in PvP, as they get one shot instantly by things like monks, wizard beams, etc. Your summons just suck in PvE. So realistically, you're looking for PvP damage, you're trying to get continual damages, bleeds, etc., or you're trying to get the 0 damage CC type of build. And for that reason, today I'm going to give Necromancer an A tier. Now, Demon Hunter is at least an A tier. It's arguable they're almost S tier. If you have a strong Demon Hunter, a Demon Hunter can delete you like no other character I've seen, even including Monk. Monk has to get on top of you in order to delete you, get on top of you and then do their animation of the two shimmering. A Demon Hunter can kill you as soon as you see them like pull the trigger of their crossbow. They have a way of just destroying you with basic attacks. They're absolutely insane, and they'll feel like they're killing you quicker. It feels like they pulled out an AR-15 out of their pocket sometimes, these characters. And the thing is, they don't really bring utility. They don't bring pushing the payload. They literally just bring damage. So I can't put them in the S tier because the wizard brings CC, the monk brings immunity, team-wide shields, brings CC. The Demon Hunter doesn't really have all that. It's just mostly just damage, and for that reason, it goes A tier. Now, the Crusader, I would like to put in A tier, but realistically, I think I'm putting in B tier, not because I think Crusaders are trash and I want to hate on them. I myself am a Crusader right now, but I believe that Crusaders are well-deserved for some love. I believe that Crusaders could absolutely be A tier. They're not a terrible class. It's just they haven't got the love from Blizzard for the PvP viability. I think once they have some viability buffs, they go in the A tier. But as it stands today, I do believe out of all the classes in the game, the Crusader feels the worst to play, feels the worst to have on your team. And even though there are good players out there, I know there's some Crusaders out there being like, you're wrong, etc. I'm sure you're playing Crusader and you're doing quite well with your Crusader. But if I have to pick which of all the classes in the game I believe is the most difficult to do well, meaning if you are doing well, congratulations, that means you're doing something harder than doing well with some of these other classes, is the way I see. Okay, I'm not saying you can't perform with them. It's just the one I don't want to perform with the most. That being said, consider subscribing, liking, or coming by the live streams. We do live stream every single day on twitch.tv/DarthMicrotransaction. Love you all, and I will see you guys on the next episode.